Hey there, friends. This is gonna be my last Darkplace video, which is crazy. Oh my goodness, that's so insane. I've had so much fun with this series and with all of your amazing replies, and I have so much to watch now with all your great recommendations. I know this isn't the end for me and Garth and me and Dean, because we're gonna get to Dean's show next, but still, it's like, after years of wondering what the heck this show was, after I saw a commercial for it on Adult Swim so long ago, I now finally know, and it's a beautiful thing. I don't even know how much I'm gonna say. I have to say on this. I think it's just extra interview bits, which I'm very excited to watch. Honestly, like, full disclosure, if I look kind of not serious, I don't know, if I look a certain way, I wrecked my back really bad. Last night I just slept in a bad position on a couch, which I shouldn't have slept on. So I'm in so much pain. So I've taken some painkillers. Now I'm just like, I just need something that will make me laugh and ignore how much pain I'm in. So if I wince, that's why. But mostly I'm just looking for a happy distraction because wowzers, I hurt right now. Please make me forget about my pain, you crazy little gremlins. Let's go. So this one is going to be Darkplace Illuminatum. And I thought there was just one, but I guess there are two videos. So I'm just going to go through both of them today, so the video might be a little extra long, but who cares? So here we go.
No, I didn't write the scripts in advance. So I wrote scene ideas primarily, and we'd start and we'd shoot whatever I could. I'd come in, I'd say, right, we're doing this, we're doing that, and then then I'd go and dream a bit more and come up with stuff. So it was a very organic process.
I think it's a very...
For a minute, like he was going to fall asleep. That's honestly a little surprising based on what we know about Garth, because I would feel like he's going to be like the control freak that would want to, like, that he's a genius and he has the overall plan. Then again, he's also a narcissist, so he would think that, like, it doesn't matter if I'm there, it's going to be brilliant regardless, so I don't have to actually plan anything, because I'll just, like, you know, dream and vomit onto a piece of paper and it's going to be amazing regardless. Maybe that's it. I guess that's it.
Brave and forward-thinking piece of writing, which I did at the time. I still do now.
I don't think I'm rewriting the Bible with Darkplace, but I am adding an addendum.
Well, all he was trying to achieve, basically, was to put down on celluloid what he'd been trying for various years before to put down, on paper. He has a very distinctive style, you see. That's what, got me thinking, it could be quite good because, if he can do what he did within the books, in film, then possibly he might have something fairly new to say. And I still, think that's probably the case. Nobody writes books like Garth Marenghi. Nobody.
I feel like you're I always forget the fake actor named Todd Rivers. I feel like he does look very like, to me he sounds kind of drunk, so I'm glad they're showing him with a drink. But it's like half of him knows that this sucks, but he won't admit that he was in something that sucked. Because it seems like he doesn't have much of an illustrious career. So he's going to stick to, no, I mean, yeah, I haven't done much, babe, but the things I've done are important. So it's like, you could tell if you probably got him really drunk, he would be like, oh, it's a piece of shit, right? But, like, he's still trying to save face. So, like, no, I mean, like, obviously you understand why I would have gone with this, because Garth's a great writer and things like that. Like, even if it might be bad, like, well, but you know why I went with, why it was a good decision on my part to do this. There's this weird sort of, and maybe I'm over, like, reading it over, there is this weird sort of layered thing of not wanting to look stupid. That's very funny to me.
Ahmed had financed films before. He was interested in motion pictures himself and the moving image. And I persuaded him that this was a worthwhile artistic endeavour.
And what happened to him? Because
Ahmed very, very sadly died. He was shot dead in his flat.
What did you do? So Dean killed him. What's wrong with you? I wonder if his name being Ahmed is like a reference to sort of like the foreign investors that you'll hear a lot if you follow down rabbit holes of weird movies. A lot of like, what bad Nicolas Cage film is happening right now? Oh, it's being filmed in Prague. It's always these weird like foreign investors or foreign directors, things like that, which are always very funny to me. If you want to fall down a fun rabbit hole, if you watch, you've probably heard about this if you watch Darkplace, for the fact that it does a great job at showing bad television and film. The documentary Electric Boogaloo, the the whatever story of Canon Films, the Canon film production, and how these people would just make these movies based on nothing. They would just be like, we've got a poster and we're gonna sell the film based on that. And just the crazy weird money schemes they came up with like foreign investors and all kinds of things, and selling movies based on like a title and maybe a star they think they can get, but they're not super sure, is fascinating to me. It's a really, really good documentary. I fully recommend it. Vadim is a monster. We know this. I guess I'm gonna find out more about why he's a monster in his show. I'm a little bit scared.
I was actually led to believe that Darkplace was going to be a film from the outset. It's only when arguments ensued between various other cast members and things it was cut up into so many episodes. I think it probably would have benefited from being, a full sort of feature. But
it's hard to tell because like so much care is put into all the random things in Darkplace that I can't tell if it's on purpose that his hand is shaking a little bit. I'm like, are we meant to believe he's an alcoholic, or like I'm probably thinking way too much into it, but I feel like every little thing in Darkplace has like a specific, like it's saying something, and so now I've just looked like a psycho analyzing hand movements. I'm like, oh, is he DTing even though he's drinking right now? It's like Todd's not in a great place. Maybe we'll learn that he's doing fine, but it does make sense now saying that he thought it was a film, so he thought he was going in for like one of the major roles of a film.
What can you do?
But, I mean, according to reports, if it were to have been a feature film, it would have run at 7 hours.
Yeah.
Would it have been that long? Good heavens. Well, see, now that's too long. 2.5, I think, is most. Well, no, not even that. Yeah, well, obviously that's a problem. Better off as a TV series then. Can't always be right.
Yeah,
I've watched a 7-hour. The longest movie I've ever watched was 7 hours and 45 minutes. It, I think, was released as, it was an OJ documentary that I guess was released as a miniseries, but I just like saw it like, oh, here's a movie, and I was like, okay. And it was 7 hours and 45 minutes. I know there are a few other movies that exist. Was that, I'm gonna sound stupid saying it. It looks like Satan Tango to me. I don't know how it's actually pronounced. To me, it looks like it's called Satan Tango, all one word. But that I think is 6 or 7 hours. I think the longest movie that's not like that documentary that I've sat through is maybe 4 hours, close to 4. Yeah, it's a bit long, I'd say. It's a bit long.
The problem was that we made this show, and I forgive me for not telling you this up front when we hired you, but we made this show without any channel's permission. So I just started making the show with Garth, paying for it myself, and we didn't know you had to be asked. So we made it, gave it to the channel, and they said, I'm sorry, we didn't ask you to make this. I said, what do you mean? You didn't ask us to make this. How, do you ask everyone before they make a show? And they said, yes, we do. And I went, this is news to me, sweetheart. I made this show with my sweat and blood. I spent the last 4 weeks of my life making this show. Do you want it? No, they say. So I'm, caught between the devil and the deep blue sea, having to sell 40 episodes of a medical-based horror show with no one buying it. That's why we had to put it out in Peru. Thank God for the Peruvian market.
I'm slowly feeling really bad for Todd over this, and we're only a couple minutes in. It's just makes him just like, you're seeing slowly all of the like life drain out of things. Just like, oh my God, this was all This was all for nothing. Oh, bless that man. And you know what? Hey, if nothing else, you have to say that Dean has confidence and a can-do attitude. Even if that can-doing might be murder, it is still can-doing. That is really funny. I always love watching, like, unaired pilots for shows. A big one that's always, I think, a fun watch is, like, the Always Sunny pilot. They just went out and made for, like, I can't remember. They used to throw around the amount. Now I can't recall what it is. Like, I don't know, a couple $100 or something. And it's just, like, they just filmed it by themselves and then ended up selling it. That's a really fun thing to hear about. You always love those kind of stories. I'm trying to remember, I can't remember how much it cost. There's weird numbers that fly into my head that I still remember, like, the budget for Clerks from Kevin Smith's like $27,575. Why do I remember that? I don't know. I still don't know where my keys are. Welcome to ADHD, hyperfixation. Anyway, but yeah, I like looking at like unaired pilots. I think they're kind of fun. But maybe don't make an entire series before you sell it. That's my advice for the day.
Well, Douglas, first and foremost, I wanted Douglas to be every man. I wanted him to be everything that an audience member would want to be, would aspire to be.
That's not an everyman. That's not an everyman. An everyman is John Watson. You want to be Sherlock, that's a different thing.
He had been in the past. It had to be Johnny Average. It had to be your average Daily Mail reader. In many ways, he is an extension of my own natural abilities. He's got a little bit more than me. He is a little more tragic than I am as a character. He's seen the dark side a little too much. Rick Douglas travels in a golf cart around the hospital corridors. Now, I know that some people will say doctors don't really do that.
Okay, so so he's saying it's a golf cart. Around the hallways? Okay.
Well, it depends. If you go to a private hospital and you ask for it, you'll get it. I like to think if I was a doctor, I'd probably soup up all my implements. I think I wouldn't wear a white lab coat. I don't think. I'd wear a leather one.
Of course.
Sanchez is a really complex guy. I mean, he's been in the Falklands. He's seen some serious stuff. Super glued men together. That type of thing. The type of thing that you and I will never see. So you've got to give respect to these kind of characters, which I hope I did. One Track Lover was written with Garth falling in love with a broccoli woman. Anyway, from what I remember, he had to be out of town to do something. Something with his wife. I can't remember what it was. So therefore, there wasn't any time, so I did it. That's all it was. Otherwise, it would have been him. So no, there was no, letting.
That does make sense. I did actually wonder that a little bit. But I'm shocked that he's giving someone else a love story. That makes sense. That it was supposed to be him.
Letting us see, the different sides, to Dr. Sanchez.
Nope.
Sanchez was, just going to be just this down the line surgeon, didn't take any shit, did what he wanted. If he wanted to operate that day, he did. If he didn't, he didn't. That was pretty much how it ran. So that's why I fell in love, with a broccoli woman. I believe it's a very good episode. The main sort of focus of the end of the episode, of the broccoli episode, Sanchez loses, his old chap because he's laid down with a broccoli woman. I mean, it is, for instance, if you imagine somebody like Jean-Michel Jarre losing their hands. And we can only imagine what that would be like.
I don't know. Okay, I don't know what to think. I'm slowly just like... I really want to know everyone else's read now on Todd, because I'm just like, I can't tell if he's dumb or on a lot of, like, downers. I don't know what it is. He's either dumb or he's on a lot of muscle relaxers, or both. I don't know which it is. I'm concerned for him. Does he ever appear on Dean Lerner's show? Probably not. I want him to. This is also like maybe the second show I've ever seen Matt Berry in, because I watched What We Do in the Shadows, and this, I know he's in a bunch of other stuff, but I've never seen it. Unless he's popped up on shows and I just didn't know it was him. Because I've only seen like one episode of The It Crowd. I've never seen, I know he's got what was that, Toast of London or something? It's a bunch of shows he's in that I've never seen, so I gotta watch more of him because he is so just funny. And obviously everyone knows like the greatest voice.
I played Reed as a slightly dishevelled boss anyway. He was a man who was trying to deal with maverick doctors. I mean, Sanchez and Douglas are maverick doctors. They're great doctors, but they do doctoring their way.
I just feel like of any job in the world, you don't want your doctors to be mavericks. I don't want my surgeon to be I don't want a devil-may-care surgeon. No, thank you.
And Reed has to contend with that. He's got a hospital to run. He's got Wonton on his back 24/7.
Where's Wonton?
You know, he's got the third floor to contend with.
What's that mean?
You know, he used to be one of the best surgeons on the wing, but he lost a knee in Korea, and so he can't operate anymore.
Was that mentioned? Maybe it was.
I thought he lost a bollock in Korea.
Yeah, he had a bad time in Korea. He lost a knee and a ball.
There was a lot of trouble because
God.
Dean wore boots as well. And partly why I bought the boot was to kind of raise my height a little. As you know, I am, I wouldn't say significantly, but I suppose I am to any bystander a little bit shorter than Dean. But Dean would deliberately buy bigger heeled boots to make me look smaller on set. So then I would buy a boot with a bigger heel to up the ante. And then it became this really rather ridiculous boot war, which never really ended. And there were a lot of casualties, and it was a sorry business, and it was stupid and crazy, and it went on for 5 years.
He wears those ridiculous cowboy boots to make him slightly taller. I never understand men that do that. I think Tony Blair does that. Lifts, they're called. These hugely arrogant, stupid men. They're as bad as fucking toupees. They wear these lifts to make themselves an inch higher than they already are. If you're small, you're small. Think anyone gives a shit if you're 5 foot or 5'1"? You know what I mean? With a lift on your shoe. You're still a short man. Unbelievable what people do. And I believe he's still doing that. He's still wearing cowboy boots now with built-up heels. Fantastic stuff. Always makes me snigger.
Well, he's gone on record.
That is funny. It's like he just finished that glass. It's like I said, as he's drinking, the honest part is coming out a little bit more. I want that to continue. If this continues to this, I would be real thrilled.
They're saying that you're a good foot shorter than him.
Really? How tall does he think he is then? Answer that.
I'm nearly 6 foot. And Dean is, I think, 6'2", something like that.
He says he's 6 foot. Garth Marenghi, 6 foot tall. He's barely 5 foot and wears lifts. End of story.
Guys aren't like that, man. It's so funny to me. I'm a big fan of like the BuzzFeed Unsolved guys. If anyone's ever watched those guys, they do like Puppet History, which I'm obsessed with, a bunch of online shows. And they have a very big height difference. And a couple times they've talked about, specifically the smaller ones talked about his height. It's like, well, you know, I'm 5'10", and it's like, are you actually? It's like, I'm 5'9.5", and the other one's 6'4", which is that giant height difference. Which they play into it. It's big guy and little guy. It's fine. That's like a classic comedy dynamic. Come on now. But Garth, of course, as we know, is I believe him. Garth would never lie to us. He's 6 feet. He's 6 feet.
There are a lot of guns in this show. Do you think that's realistic for life in a hospital, Todd?
Is there a lot of guns? I think... I don't particularly remember using a gun that often. I don't think there are guns used in hospitals in this country, though I think that there should be. If I was a doctor in this day and age, I would definitely be carrying a gun. Saturday night in Casualty, you get all kinds of people. Most of them are pissed. And they don't recognise that you're actually there to help them. You see, so they can, you know, all these sort of situations, you know, can then flare up. And if you just flash a bit of steel, I think, you know, it would soon sort out the men from the boys.
Okay, I've decided I'm putting my own story onto this. This isn't real. This isn't actually what I'm thinking, but I've now decided to form a narrative where where when Todd is being interviewed separately, he's getting progressively drunker and maybe more honest. And when he's being interviewed next to Dean has drugged him to keep him chill and is staring at him nonstop to make sure that he only says nice, supportive things. This is my narrative I'm adding into it, but I'm very dedicated to this narrative now. So yes, that's why Dean keeps staring at him, just like, you shut up, little puppet, and you say what I need you to say. Because Dean is a monster. Let's go.
Have you used a gun, personally?
Yeah.
That's why I don't remember holding a gun. He's so out of it.
There are certain times when he's backed into a corner where the only way of getting out of that particular corner is with a gun.
What sort of
That's
gun?
life, isn't it?
That's what I found.
He looks so terrifying.
Do you use guns as well?
If I had to, I'd use a gun. I've not had to shoot anyone in the face as yet, but I would happily... I'd shoot you in the face if I had to. I mean, I'd try not to, but if I had to, I'd shoot you in the face.
The state of the NHS at the moment, you don't know who you're treating.
So, make them look good. Oh my god.
Half the time, I've honestly, when I was in the hospital last year, my mother was in there, and I shit you not, there were a couple, curtains round, in that very ward. And the nurse came by and said, happens all the time.
And if you'd been a doctor, you would have shot them.
If I'd been a doctor in that situation, I would certainly have pulled out my gun and ordered them to halt.
If you came into my car, for instance, okay,
You can't be doing that. You can't be doing that. No.
demanded that I got out of my car so you could have my car. Now this kind of thing here does go on. It goes on in this country now. I should be able to kill you for that. Okay, shoot you dead in my own car for telling me to get out of my car so you can take it. But you'd be in the shit.
I'm putting $5 down now that this interviewer doesn't make it to the end of these 2 videos, or there's like an in memoriam at the end, because the looks that Dean is giving whoever is asking these questions, he will not make it home.
You'd be up against, the judge gripping the yoke.
I'm in!
The guy that they got to be raped by the eye hadn't seen any photographs, didn't know what was going on, didn't know what would be asked of him. He was just, some extra that was told he had to lie in a bed all day. So, of course, he's going to say yes.
You should get better pay than an extra if you're going to get assaulted by an eye man. Come on now. You need to at least get a little bit more pay.
Then they bought this bloody great thing with this, dwarf chap inside, with this cock that was coming up and down, like, behind this poor boy. And yeah, he got a bit, he got a bit upset about that. I've seen it. It makes me laugh. I think it's very, very well done.
You don't find it chilling, then?
Chilling? The idea is chilling, oh yes. But, no, because the thing is, I was there while it was being filmed, you see, and it was rather a hoot for me. Garth didn't find it at all funny. He took, the whole thing very, very seriously.
I have a problem with your word bugger there, okay? The man was impregnated to death, in my book.
Stuart and Kim were carpenters / builders. They put in a decent little performance as well. Harrison Ford
Oh my god, I didn't know we were going to get into, the reoccurring extras. That makes me so happy. I love this.
was a carpenter. As far as I'm concerned, Harrison Ford is still a carpenter. But, he's done very well on it. He looks like he's always just about to fit a joist, as far as I'm concerned. That guy is on auto cruise. Harrison Ford is on auto cruise. I wish he'd just get it into 4th gear once in a while.
Jeez.
And of course, Jesus was a carpenter.
Jesus, also, another great carpenter. I don't know whether he's a good carpenter, but his eye wasn't really on the job from the age of 27 up. He had bigger fish to fry, literally, bigger fish to fry. But it just shows that woodwork is a good grounding for whatever profession you end up going into.
It's insane.
Graham is very, very tall. It's very difficult to act with somebody that tall unless, I suppose, you're doing something like science fiction, where he can play, I don't know, an alien or something. Normal BBC drama, there's nowhere for him. He can't really play a lead. I mean, what kind of leading lady is going to be doing that all the time? A leading man with him the whole time. No, it's ridiculous. Dean's very tall, but nowhere near as tall as Graham. Graham's a giant. Garth's direction pretty much consisted of, can you be here at 9:30? There's no cab or anything. Probably best you bring something to eat also. That's true as well. I've not made that up. Absolutely true.
Did he ever mention your performance?
Well, he just said he liked certain bits. I mean, he pretty much, left me to my own devices, I think. He knew I could do it.
Here's the thing, I've watched so many, because I collect movies. I still kind of do. I collect, Criterion collection movies, or, just weird movies that I can find. But I used to be the queen of, I'd watch all the extra features, I'd watch all the audio commentaries, and so they're just especially these moments with Todd where he's a little tipsy, sound so much like little moments I've seen in extras. And also, I've worked on, or had friends work on, indie films, and then had evenings at the bar with them afterwards, and them discussing the director. Sounds very similar to someone that a couple of my friends worked with on a project, and it makes me so happy. Oh my gosh, I love this so much.
He had many other things to worry about. So did Dean.
Was it true that Garth has a habit of muttering no to himself when someone was doing a take?
Yeah, he does, yeah.
I sent a memo out, did I not? Because you and I drafted it together. A memo was sent out, first week, pre-production, saying, point out to everyone concerned, cast and crew, that Garth Marenghi, the director of this project, will be speaking at twice the speed that he usually does when directing people on set.
He would pretty much shoot everybody else's scene at the end of the day, so there's a certain rush, which meant you had to get them done, so you just got one take at them. Whereas if a scene involved himself, that would be done, near enough first thing. So, he got about 4 or 5 games.
Because they had to be perfect, because he's the only character that matters. Of course. Obviously.
Goes at it. Which I can understand. His cash. Fair enough.
You're not popular on set, are you?
Go on.
Garth bollocked the sound man because he said the mic was putting him off acting. And he said, get that thing away from me.
Oh my God.
And the sound man said, well, if I do get that thing away from you, we won't be able to hear you. And Garth said that wasn't his problem. That was the sound man's problem. That if he couldn't mic him up on the other side of the room, then he would go looking for another sound man.
Oh my God.
The thing with crew is that they do insist on getting paid.
And
They're
fed.
not artists. They insist on money. I said, you will have your bunts at the end of the week, cash in hand. And they did not believe me, because 3 weeks in, they still had only got coppers off me. And I said, look, you're getting fed. You've got a roof over your head if you want.
How are they getting fed when they said bring food? I assumed they had no craft services. There's probably just a vending machine. Oh my God. It's so funny. There's 2 versions of Dean. There's this weird obsessed with Garth and just hapless dum-dum who's just I just don't know why no one would listen to me. Why can't we all just work together? And the other person who's a stone cold killer. And they both scare me a little bit.
To DOS down here, but I can't pay you yet. Stay with me, believe in this, you'll get your money.
The crew was getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
How many people did you start with and how many did you end with?
Crew, I remember, I could be wrong here, of about 30. I think there was 7 at the end.
Jesus.
And did that include you?
Yeah.
I was doing the camera, I was doing the lighting, I was doing the sound, I was doing the bloody catering.
What soils my memory of the production, and it always comes back to me, is
I don't think we've seen those 2 next to each other yet. Maybe we have, and I just forgot. But definitely not in this video.
combination. It was the combination. It was the combined drinking and lovemaking at all hours, which really did, I thought, insult my intelligence, because I wasn't running a circus in my book. I wasn't running a circus. I wasn't running some shoddy cowboy outfit. And at times,
I'm sorry you think that.
well, you and Dean were seen on set naked and photographed that way.
I don't remember that at all.
No, you don't remember that.
I don't, I don't doubt that.
Dean don't remember it either. But it's on film.
There was a lovely little thing called Tika, was she called? She had a twin sister.
The idea that, like, Garth will, I'm sure, say that he didn't participate because he's married, but it's just because he's a nerd. This is all giving me vibes of, and I've probably mentioned this in the reactions earlier, but it's giving me vibes of Island of Dr. Moreau's set, which I mentioned Electric Boogaloo before, but if you also want maybe my favorite bad movie documentary, go watch Lost Souls, The Island of Dr. Moreau. I can't recall the full name of it, but Lost Souls is a documentary about the making of the one in the 90s with Marlon Brando, and it's insane. Everything that went down in that movie is truly just a lot of people trying to make a movie that was bad, that were going mad. Like, Val Kilmer and Marlon Brando, like, getting this weird ego battle. Val Kilmer flicking lit cigarettes at crew members. The original director snapping from stress, climbing up into a tree and refusing to come down. A bunch of crazy sex going on with people in animal outfits. It's crazy. It's maybe one of my favorite documentaries ever. I sat through the movie so I could watch the documentary. The movie is bad. The documentary makes it amazing. But yeah, that's all I'm thinking of when they're describing the crazy set, is I'm just thinking of Island of Dr. Moreau.
Beautiful girl that I got actually confused, and because the way that the actual caravan was, there was two doors. I was on one side, Dean was in the other, and drink had flowed, and I didn't know whether it was Tika or her sister had gone in one door, come out the other. Dean had gone in one door, Tika had come out, I'd gone in the other. Absolute mayhem, but such good fun.
I think at an early age it's important to tether your beast. Otherwise it can run riot. And in the days of Darkplace, I have to say, Todd, you and Dean ran riot.
Well, let me say one thing about that. I would say a man who behaves like a beast shall never suffer the pain of being a man. Yet a man without love is like an orchard without cherry blossom. That's the way I feel about it now.
Okay.
I've mellowed, I think.
We have
Story.
I think it's amazing that he can say anything in that voice, and I'll be like, for sure. Because it just sounds so, like, it sounds so legit when he says it. Give me a second, I just lost my place because I'm dumb. Hang on. Boop.
Yeah, Dean had never acted at all. I remember on the first date. If you can't
Know what that bit of king.
stuff for what done in the invited place. We have restored
Gotten me.
about it now. I've mellowed, I think.
we have restored Darkplace to as near its original condition as we can get it. But a lot of the film is lost in the Thames. There was a police raid on my house, and I had to get rid of certain articles sharpish.
His eyes get so intense. I'm really scared of him.
In that mix-up, I ended up dumping half of Darkplace in the bottom of the Thames. There's no going back from that. I apologised to Garth. He understood. He's a good friend. But this is partly why we're yakking so much in this, just to fill up the bloody time. The editing was done in the old way, on an old flatbed editing thing, which is why it sometimes jumps around. Because once you cut, you cut. And we cut with scissors, and we just threw the stuff away that we didn't want. So sometimes we cut it, throw what we thought we didn't want away, and just think, oh, we could have used that, but by that time we'd scrapped it. Or it's covered in beans or something, you know.
I have questions about performance.
I never really saw myself as an actor. I had acted at school. I played a shepherd in the nativity play.
Bless.
The year after that, I played one of the kings in the nativity play.
Garth's not bad. You know, he could have gone on to do other things, possibly. I don't think he's that interested, but, you know, he seemed to, you know, remember his lines, which I suppose he should do as he wrote them that morning.
I do tend to, you know, do a little bit of Stanislavskian. Have you heard of him? Stanislavskian psychotechnique. Do you know what that is? I do that.
2 takes, yeah.
God, I love Garth. Have you heard of him? Stanislavski, have you heard of him? The most fit, yeah, I've heard of him. It's just like, but he needs you to know that he's heard of him. Because he's a legit, even if he's not really an actor, whatever he does, he's legit at it. Bless him.
If you can't, you know, basically nail the thing in 2,
I'm sitting on a fidget
you
toy.
know, then you know, pissing in the wind, I think.
If you can't get it in one take, then you're not an actor, in my opinion. It's an odd one. Dean's...
I feel like that's very Ed Wood. Ed Wood was very kind of one take, usually because they weren't where they were supposed to be. So it was a lot of like shoot this and run kind of stuff in some of his early movies anyway. But I feel like that's very like, yeah, well, that's perfect. It's great.
not an actor. But I told him at the time I didn't want an act. Not interested. I want the truth. Dean's one of the truest people I've ever met. He
That's
will not lie
probably true.
to me.
Okay.
So I just want...
If he's never lied to you, either you are extremely gullible and he has lied to you, or you're an accessory to so many crimes. I don't know which is more likely.
To that, I wanted to capture him. As far as I was concerned, he's my boss of sorts. It was more about not wanting to have anyone else as my boss who I couldn't trust. I don't like being bossed. I don't like having a boss. And I knew that if I cast anyone in the role of Thornton Reed,
I kind of never thought about that. Yeah, that is kind of a thing of like, because in their relationship, from what we've seen anyway, maybe we'll see more on Dean's show, but Dean does sort of, at least creatively worship Garth. That is who he would need the person playing his boss to still, he'd have to do it knowing that this man worships him. That actually makes a lot of sense.
I'd probably sack them within a couple of weeks because they just rubbed me up the wrong way.
Dean had never acted. Now, I know Dean. I mean, I'd known Dean for a fair few sort of years before we actually did this. He never spoke about, you know, sort of wishing to act. It was just about saving money. Yeah, Dean had never acted at all. I remember on the first day that we got there, we had to, you know, do some sort of camera tests. And first thing, Dean would do this. It would be a case of him going, "Can you see what I'm doing there? Now, just by blinking of the eyes, I'm making myself weaker. You see, as an actual performer, one is much weaker, you know, when blinking the eyes." So I said, "Dean, stop. Think about next month's rent. Think about your tax bill, you know, trying to bring the guy down." Straight away, he got it.
Any emotion you care to mention, I can do now, thanks to Mr. Todd Rivers.
It comes from the shoes, comes from the feet, yeah, it comes from rhythm.
If I were to do terror, it's not too much, you see. Because before, with terror, I'd be going, "That's too much. That camera's like a bloody magnifying glass. You can see everything. You can see thoughts. So you're in for a treat. Hope you can't. But it can, actually."
I like his vacancy. I like it. I think there's a rawness to it. It's almost like he's made a pact with Lucifer, you know. And Thornton Reed, I think if the series had gone on, we would have discovered how Thornton Reed had kissed
Oh, we're gonna say, like, are we talking about Thornton or are we talking about Dean has made a pact with Lucifer?
the bottom of Lucifer.
I'm a great believer in Garth's writing, and so I didn't want to do too much with the words. And Todd was saying perhaps I was doing too little with the words. And I thought, all right, I'll take that on board. And so, you know, if I was picking up the phone, instead of just going, "Good morning," which is how I started off, I go, "Good morning." You know, just give it a little bit of something.
How'd you pick up the phone at Beelzebub's?
"Hello, Dean Lerner." is how I pick it up. If I'm at Beelzebub's, because it's important to give a good. It's important to give the customer.
Is that his like publishing company? Does he work at? Does he work with? Of course, he still works with Garth. They're besties.
Confidence, and so I will pick up the phone and use a bit of a voice. You're an actor when you're a publisher, so I'll pick up the phone and go,
yeah, of course.
"Hello, Dean Lerner. How may I help you? Can I interest you in a book? Which one would you like?"
That's what he does when someone calls and goes, "Can I interest you in a book?" That's that. I love that they're that's the customer service voice, man. Hey, I talk like this normally. For years I worked at Disney. Hi, how can I help you today? Have a magical day. It's the Disneyland voice. Hi, princess. How are you today? Happy birthday. It's a lot of that. It's a lot of that, and then it's tiring.
So that's 2 books on their way to you. Thank you very much. Goodbye. And that makes them feel that they're in safe hands because the guy's been courteous. He's got the 2 books that they had that they'd wanted, and he's putting them in the post the next day in a brown paper envelope so that the wife doesn't see.
How do you answer the phone at home?
Dean.
I think he actually could have made up a lot of those lines while he was going. I mean, it looks as if he did. He's very good, though. He's not an actor, but, not many of them were.
Who are your main inspirations as an actor?
As an actor?
Anyone from Star Trek, really?
No.
Well, I'm speaking personally.
My great inspirations, I've always admired Chuck Norris, but that's really, and I know that he's not a Shakespearean actor as such, but he was the chief inspiration for my action moments.
He's a cinematic actor.
But I really like the guy who played Maverick. What's his name? Garner.
James Garner.
A wonderful actor.
Does he do the shampoo?
Did he do Heart to Heart? Or was that Robert Wagner? He's good as well.
I've always liked Mr. T.
Mr. T, sadly, is no longer with us.
I tried to put on Othello with Mr. T.
You know that these sections went on for hours of these 2 just riffing off each other, and I wish we had more.
But he wouldn't get on a plane. I mean, he literally wouldn't. I thought it was just in a show, but he actually refused to get on a plane.
No, that's true. I mean, they wrote.
He didn't call me a fool or ask for milk, but he wouldn't.
He was very polite. He was very polite about it. Not like B.A. Baracus, but he did refuse. You're quite right. He was a lovely chap. Really nice. Bit too Christian for me.
Yeah.
And he's no longer with us. Or is he?
I don't know.
I think he's just ill.
I did Love Labour's Lost with Peter Wingard.
Random unimportant note, I hate Love's Labour's Lost. It's not a good play. I'm just saying, I'm a Shakespeare fan. That play is penned in. It's not good. It's not good.
He came to a sticky end, but an incredible actor. I would say as good, as any, of the big names. Gielgud, whatever. Wingard definitely had it. Right up to the end.
What do you think about the theory that Darkplace was cursed?
So you want to talk about the curse of Darkplace?
Darkplace was cursed. I mean, I went bankrupt. Garth had a nervous breakdown. Todd became an alcoholic.
I became very bitter of the actual business itself after making Darkplace. That much is true. I suppose it did curse me, yes. I'm not really interested in the other supernatural nonsense, they made.
See, everything doesn't. See? I want to hear about Garth's nervous breakdown.
Arisen from the show. Didn't affect me. Don't care about things like that. That's just a way of getting people to watch your show. I've also found that out.
If you are an extra on a show or on a film, you know the risks. They know there's a risk that you might die. That's why you get paid £80 a day. You might die. You probably won't die.
But they didn't get paid. That's happened on sets. It's sad. What was that one? Oh gosh. I don't remember what film it was. It's a really, really old one where there was a massive flood scene and I think a couple people died. Stuff happens. It's crazy. Film accidents are insane.
but you might. What's probably going to happen is you're going to be 80 quid up on bunts, but you might die. Now, some of the extras on Darkplace died, but
How
some
many?
didn't.
How many?
They all got paid. Their families got paid. I waved adieu to everyone who passed away during the filming of this, with a tear in my eye and a song in my heart. But they knew the risks. We were using live physical effects. We were using flying knives that hadn't been blunted because they were straight from my kitchen. Their memories are with us. Not too well, but they're with us.
There are some things you can't rush.
With filming.
They're with us because Dean kept a bit of their hair and it's in his house in a box. Because even if he didn't murder them himself, if the thing he used for his project kills them, he still counts it toward his total body count. Give us a number.
Exactly. There are some things you can't rush sawing, and you can't rush hammering, which we asked them to do.
And so the turning point was the death of the grip. That's when we lost the crew. We had a flying bin, and that bin careered out of control, and I believe the word is brained. It brained him. And we said, all right then, Colin, you have half a day off. So out he staggered into the morning, bright as you like, and he walked into a bus. Now, did we kill him, or did that bus kill him? I say it's the bus driver, but he got off. I had to go through the indignity of a manslaughter trial.
Oh, probably not your first, honey.
Do I believe in the what?
The Hornet one.
The Horned one? What kind of nonsense is that? Do I believe in the Horned? Do you mean, do I believe in the hoof-footed one?
Yes.
Do you know, I think I do.
I could see the darkness in her eyes.
What is happening?
I knew that she'd done things with the Horned one.
What sorts of things do you think she was doing?
Well, I don't like to speculate as to what Madeline was actually doing. I do know that if you're a witch and you make a pact with Lucifer,
Wait, hang on. Okay. So either she was a witch or a Satanist, or they're just bad-mouthing a woman that Dean killed. Or both.
you have to kiss his bottom. She would not learn lines correctly. She'd slip up. She would... I'd find her nudging my arm accidentally when I didn't want it to be nudged. She wouldn't sit on Todd's knee. And, you know, after a while you think, for God's sake, it's a joke. Just sit on the man's knee and he'll stop asking.
I went into the caravan, to the sort of toilet cubicle, because I'd left my earring in there. And she was in the shower. So I said, my dear, I'm sorry, I've left my earring in the shower. And of course she was naked, so I turned round. And I turned back, and I shit you not, my friend, she was gone when I turned round again.
So what would you say the message of Darkplace is?
Keep making good television. You know, Darkplace is very, very good television. You know, storylines are bang on, not bad acting. Yeah, you know, but they don't want to make things like this anymore.
I mean, I believe that the great shows have come and gone. TJ Hooker's come and gone. Dukes of Hazzard's come and gone. You know, Crystal Maze has come and gone. We won't see shows like that again.
All those classic shows. Sorry, not a fan.
In our small way, I hope we're contributing to that canon. It might be a niche market. Who knows? Who knows? I'm sure people would rather watch Big Brother, rather watch people shower. And to be honest, I'd rather watch people shower than watch this.
Simple storytelling. That's what's lacking now. That's what's lacking in cinema, TV programs, TV, you know, expensive TV drama, simple storytelling, decent acting, thought-provoking stuff.
Art isn't a commodity that you haul in and out.
No.
Like dildos.
Darkplace sums up television as we know it. By that I mean, to the untrained eye, everything looks smooth, hugely entertaining.
Absolutely.
Every woman looks good.
Yep.
everything is tied up at the end.
Yep.
Yet the reality is far different. It was horrible to work on. I didn't get paid any money for it. And to be honest, I can't remember a thing about it now. And that's the way I hope it stays. Thanks very much.
Because I will not pay a license.
He remembers backstage sex stuff, so he remembers something about the experience. Poor Todd.
I believe that the gift of Darkplace is such a sufficient gift to television that I don't believe I ever should really have to pay a licence again. I really don't. That's my gift. I've paid my licence 100 times over with just one episode of Darkplace. No. So if they come, gypping me for a licence again, up theirs.
Now we're on to Horrificata. Why can't my brain read? Horrificata Illuminata. Wow, I'm exhausted. All the words, not even like it was because it was spelled goofy. Just the letters started to go woo.
The first horror novel really is the Bible. It's certainly the first Locust novel.
As far as I'm concerned, there is only one horror writer, Garth Marenghi.
By here, bit more, bit further, by the end. That's what this kind of stuff is.
I've just still never, I'm sure I've mentioned this, I've never read a horror book. I love horror, I've never read a horror book. But I did recently start getting into horror comic books a little bit, like horror manga from Junji Ito. And I will say, not that I would ever compare anyone to the great Garth Marenghi, I am genuinely impressed how that, I was reading Uzumaki specifically, how that book is able to actually do jump scares, like pull off jump scares in a comic book. By just knowing how to build the tension, and then when the page turns the full, like it genuinely, there were several times where I was just like, oh my god, it was rough. I loved it. It was great, but like I was genuinely shocked by how well they could pull things off by just knowing how to set up tension and where to put the panels and things like that. It was very cool. But I have not read a horror book. I should. I'm bad. Maybe I will eventually. Maybe if there's any I should read, let me know.
What I'd hope that my fiction achieves now is more of the slight chill. The kind of... for example, if that was Dawn Waters, rather than... I would hope that it would be... Right. Really? But hang on, I thought... And if I can achieve that, then I will die a very happy man.
I feel like he does that with all of his books. Like he'll sit there and just like, or he'll have Dean read it in front of him and mark the reactions. I feel like he's done that before.
Shakespeare was a horror writer. Shakespeare dealt in the realms of the fantastique, as does Garth. They're both imaginers. They're both ferrymen.
True.
They both explore worlds. That's what they do. I have no truck with snobbery at all. To me, it's all the same. Literature, porno, dog racing.
And the way that he writes, those nightmares down, is almost childlike. And that's what makes it frightening for me. It's like if you, a young son, or a daughter, and they come bursting into your room, 1 a.m, screaming and crying. They've had this awful nightmare. And you say, what happened? And they say, oh, this man came down with dish mops on his head and blah, 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 blah. Do you know what I mean? It has a certain horror than if I was to wake up, my girlfriend and say, listen, I just had a nightmare. This man...
I do kind of get what he's talking about. Nothing scarier than like if an adult's like, I had a dream there was a man in my closet, and a small child is like, there's a man in my closet. That's terrifying. So just things are always scarier with kids. I say, as darn it, a champion of the horror film Skinamarink. People fight me, and that's fair, but they're wrong. But I'm wrong, so whatever. It's an ongoing. If you're not a horror fan, it's an ongoing fight of, is that movie brilliant and terrifying, or is it the most boring, terrible movie you've ever seen? Who can say? Everyone I know says the last one. I say I haven't been more scared in a movie for the past 20 years. And I'm not joking. I'm not joking. That movie made me cry. Anyway.
And came down from the sky with a, I don't know, pitchfork, stuck me up the arse with it. Next thing I knew, I was, I don't know, on someone's tongue. Do you know what I mean? You wouldn't give a shit. That's it.
Garth has made a lot of people read. A lot. I mean, most people who read Garth's books hate reading. Garth makes people who hate reading read. I mean, they won't read anything good, but they'll read Garth. I will generally put in punctuation. I see that as my job. Garth does one draft. He doesn't want to dull it by constantly revising. He'll do one draft, and he'll often elect to omit punctuation. That's his call. I will put in commas. I won't put in semicolons. This isn't Joyce. I will omit dashes. Again, this isn't French writing. I will make sure that sentences start with capital letters. That's what they're called. I will make sure the book is long enough, or should I say thick enough. That could be a question of adding more.
Hey, not everyone does. Well, I think Louis L'Amour didn't do a lot of punctuation. He also didn't write interesting books. And, what's his name? Oh, God, I'm bad at this game. Guy who wrote The Road and Blood Meridian. I don't think he was big on periods. It's all good, man. It's a style.
More words. It could be a question of making the paper thicker. Depends what we've got time for. I, in consultation with Garth, will view the cover. Are there too many skeletons on this cover? Is this skull big enough? Could we fit more maggots on?
Yeah.
Should bits of this book be pop-up? Questions like that. So it is creative.
I want Garth to write kid books.
Horror is dead.
I beg your pardon. What did you just say?
You should stop writing.
Did you? No. You said horror is dead.
Horror is dead.
No, horror's not dead, my friend. You're dead. You're dead inside. If you think horror's dead, you're
I
dead.
thought he was about to call in Dean to murder this man. I will say, people say that, I swear, like, every 3 years, people are like, oh, horror, like, as a film genre is dead or over, and my whole thing is just like, you're just not looking. Like, that's my whole thing, is, there's been great horror films that have come out, I think, every year, period. I like horror movies back in the 20s. I'll watch anything, man. I love horror as a genre, so it's just like, the people who claim, oh, horror movies bad, I'm like, maybe some mainstream ones are, and I don't think that's true of the last couple years. But there was definitely a period, especially in like the 90s maybe, where the mainstream horror film wasn't that great. So look at other countries or just look more independent. They're there. You just have to care enough to look, that's all. Anyways, my little film rant, I had to go on.
Inside. Horror's not dead at all. Horror's alive. Here I am.
The horror genre, I think, is in a lot of trouble at the moment, in the fact that it's been made pretty obvious to me that nobody's buying the books anymore.
I mean, Slicer, Garth's first novel, sold over 1 million copies. His last novel sold 173 copies. Mail order. And it was mail order only.
My books did not sell 173 copies last run. London Fiends sold 219 because some of those were mail order. 173 was after the returns came back.
Oh no!
Last run of Garth's books, he was able to give every reader a free jumbo mug. And that's demeaning.
No.
Salman Rushdie doesn't have to give everyone a free jumbo mug. I mean, the literature sells itself, by and large, although a mug wouldn't go amiss from Salman.
Sorry for the pause, my sister was walking around upstairs. It's kind of loud when she does. We have creaky floors.
People aren't buying videos. The kind of films that are made a spoof. So it's really possibly had its day.
Never. Oh God.
I love working with women. Well, hang on, let me rephrase that.
There you go.
I admire the women I work with. Let me rephrase that. I will work with women. Just because I fall out with every woman that I work with doesn't mean I don't love working with women. I love working with women. And if women work the way I love, then we'd get on like a house on fire. But the trouble is, women have a different way of working to me. They do not like anything I like.
I've been criticised for only employing women at Devil Press, even for heavy lifting. Now, I work better surrounded by beautiful women.
Yeah, that's one thing you cannot bounce back from. You can be a boozer, okay? You can even drink drive these days. If you're a sex pest, you've finished. There's nowhere else to go. You can't be an actor after that. You can't go back on the TV. You're a sex pest and you're through. Best thing to do is to piss off to Spain or something. That's what I'd do, I think.
Todd, are you a sex pest? I've also never heard the phrase sex pest, but kind of sounds like that might be what you are. But
You've had troubles at Dean's with underage girls.
Yes, I have, that's right. The main problem has been, I personally believe that really from
why are we talking about this?
13 and up, turn the other way.
Oh my god! Steve, no!
It's not a popular view, I know.
No!
Most older women put up with a lot of
It's
nonsense,
the worst when he brings out a larger cigar. Oh god. No.
I've found. Younger women these days certainly do not. And I can vouch for this. It's quite funny now I think back, but a few weeks ago I had a blazing row with my young girlfriend. I called her father a thief, which in actual fact he is. There was no argument there. She took huge offence to that. Didn't say anything that night. Anyway, next morning she poured scorching coffee on me. Okay, now most men would have gone through the roof at that. Got up, I put my trousers on, grabbed the car keys, and I went on holiday. Okay, and since then she's mellowed and it's been fine.
But I personally believe that girls who lie about their age, and I'm talking about 14, 13-year-olds here, should be imprisoned. Or certainly sent to some kind of corrective institution. Because they're playing with fire.
Isn't this supposed to be about a show? Or books? Why are we talking about this? It's getting so dark. Oh my god. As you're discovering, I laugh at anything, so I'm sorry if it's offensive. I'm not getting offended, but these people aren't real. It's okay.
And if you play with fire, little girl, you're going to get burnt.
He's burnt people.
Garth, I know you once said one of the most beautiful things someone said to you was that they'd actually climaxed while reading one of your books.
That's right, yeah. It was...
Me? I said that too, didn't I?
I write scenes about making love. Now, some people might think that's just titillation.
It's not screwing, it's making love.
It's
though.
making love.
And can I just say, you've not made love until you've made love to Mr. Jean-Michel Jarre.
Well, that's true.
It's like making love underwater, but, with more control. In the sex scene, a phrase I do like is her dock, because that's got a nautical theme that I feel fits in
Her
with
dock.
with the saltiness
Yeah.
of the entire endeavour.
Her dock, my ferry.
Yeah. Wet dock is too much.
Yeah, see,
and I've
that's
seen
pushing
someone do that.
That's pushing it.
Stop at dock. I've read someone...
Oh man. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to figure out, has there been a Bond girl with the last name Doc? I know Dr. No, I think it was, had trench, which is really bad. Oh man. Alright, next Bond film. Let's get Tiffany Doc or something.
referred to it as a harbour. And I thought that was too ornate.
Well, that's, that sounds more
girl.
vampiric, certainly.
But it just sounds like you're going to be moored there for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Move on, because I don't want to talk of,
It's, it can be sordid.
I'll make love all day, I won't talk about making love all day. Well, I'll make love for as long as I can these days.
Dean's
Which
always...
actually is quite a long time by the time I manage to get anything going.
All right.
He's got such a sinister vibe as Dean. His looks are terrifying. I think it's the hat. I don't know what it is, man. I've seen him in lots of stuff, but never this scary. I always thought he was like a little sweetie doof. He's petrifying in this.
All right. You've started him off.
It's a sad, sad day.
I don't
want to
hear about it
I tell you
anymore. I don't want to hear about it, please.
Both of you look me in the eye and tell me that you, on a late night, while sad and desperate, having not sold very many books and being kind of low on rent, have not had sex with each other. I'm just gonna say it. Come on now. That has fully happened.
Let me tell you, it is a sad day.
I know it's a sad day.
It's a sad day for Dean. A sad day for Dean when I had to say, love, get a cab, it's not happening.
No woman has survived in any one of the last 3 books of yours.
Beg pardon?
Well, the women always buy it.
The women do not buy it, they die heroically.
Do you think that's going to be a problem when you're trying to...
Look, all right, we're talking about London Fiends, right? I presume you're talking about the story about the Wasp Priestess.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so the Wasp Priestess dies, but she was evil. Okay, so does that count as a woman? She's half wasp. So shall we say I'm knocking the wasps? Should we say that? All right, I'm knocking the wasps as well then. We're knocking the wasps and I'm knocking women. Okay? The female woman in that, the heroine, so the two women in that book for a start, half woman, half wasp priestess. If you include the wasp priestess, that's half. All right, so we say it's half woman, half wasp. So you've got half. So you've got 1.5 women in that book, all right, who show a hell of a lot of spirit, who are feisty, who can get the job done. The Wasp Priestess. I mean, you've really got to read some books, my friend. You have no idea.
It is true that
I will say a lot of people will claim about sexism in especially slasher films in the 80s, and all I'll say, I will always defend, even though I'm not a big slasher film fan from the 80s. Like, I don't like, Friday the 13th or any of those because they're just they're boring. I'm more of a Freddy or Chucky gal myself. I mean, it's almost always that the girl lives. She takes the phallic-shaped weapon and kills the bad guy. She takes his manhood and kills him with it. It's fun. But yeah, I don't know why people get really kind of weird about that stuff with horror films. I don't know. That is hilarious. It's one and a half women, half wasp. It's fine.
a lot of the female characters do end up dead in Darkplace, but if you look at their character, they're not all what they seem.
That's a lot about Garth and villainizing women, which I'm sure means nothing.
Broccoli, when she appears, on first look, to be a perfectly beautiful, healthy young lady. She's not. She's made of broccoli. So she's hiding something.
I'm not saying that sex is the cause of their death. I'm not saying it's because they have sex that they die. I'm saying they have sex and then they die. Put it this way.
That is very 80s, which this show did come out in. Well, this show came out in the 80s, so hey, it made sense for horror at the time, man. That was the rule. If you had sex outside of marriage, you totally died. Oddly conservative values in those old horror films.
When you are making love, everything is potent. Okay? You probably won't know that, but take it from me. Alright? When you're busy doing it, everything's potent. You are raised to the highest pitch of experience. Okay? You're at a knife edge the whole time. It's a knife edge as to whether or not you're gonna... I can't say that. Put it this way, you're out of control. Or can be out of control. Now, all I'm saying is that at such extremes, the chances are you're going to do something stupid like die afterwards.
It's funny, I feel like these interviews have sort of made me see Garth as more shy than I thought of before, which is really funny to me. Oh, goodness.
I grew up in the shit. Yeah? I can tell you about all kinds of shit. I can tell you about horse manure, I can tell you about dog poop, I can tell you about human excrement too. Because I've seen it, and I've smelt it, and I've talked to the guys who made it.
Wow.
So up yours. Pal. I work a 24-hour day. I dream. I get up at around 9, read the papers till 10, breakfast till 11, and then there's a bit of admin I need to do, and then I hit the typewriter at about 11:45, and then I break at 1:30 for lunch, which Pam usually makes, and then we'll go into town during the afternoon. I might read a bit in the afternoon, and then it's really dinner, and then it's thinking about dreaming again.
It's busy, man. It's hard.
It's nice to see you back in the black leather.
What do you mean back in the black leather?
Well, on Darkplace you wore a doctor's coat.
I've always liked black leather. I like the buffalo. I like cows. I like that food group, and you know, I like to wear what I eat in a way. There's always a roast in our house, either on the table hot with gravy on the stove, or in the fridge cold and ready for the slice. They often say to people, "You've got to switch."
I haven't eaten in like 8 hours. I don't want to hear about him talking about roast because I want it so bad. I'm so hungry. Sorry, I just had to say that out loud. I'm hungry.
Sweet tooth. With me, they say you've got a meat tooth, and they're
Same.
right. I love meat. Pam loves meat. The children don't love meat, but that's what we cook them. And until they can afford to buy their own vegetarian food, they're just going to have to lump it.
You use humour brilliantly.
Well, thank you.
I mean, how do you write such funny jokes?
Oh, well, if I hadn't been a horror writer, I think I'd have been a you know, sort of musical comedian type. I'm very funny in conversation.
I thought I was going to say stand-up comedian, but no, apparently that's a musical.
People love what I say. They find them very funny. I'm just blessed with a natural wit. Pardon?
Sorry, do you try your jokes out on anyone?
I don't have to.
They just come naturally.
Well, I do try them. If I find a joke that works, I'll repeat it. I don't have to try them out. I mean, I know they're going to work.
You've got a very funny anecdote about your first pet.
I used to take him for walks up the road, and I used to let him off the leash, and he'd run into the mud, and he'd get muddy, and he'd get dirty, and he'd be barking, and I'd have only just cleaned him earlier, you know. And he'd come back, and he'd be stinking, right? Because he'd been rolling in, God knows what, probably cow turd, something like that. And I remember one day he came bounding back, and I said, "Get away, I'm not getting anyone." I ducked out the way, and he tried to hump a child. And we nearly had him put down. I grow bloody sick of how many bloody letters I have penned and sent off and received no reply to. So this was always a kind of to the government.
Sorry, what are you upset about, Garth?
The fact that they never replied to me.
Who?
Them.
Who have you been writing to?
The people. The people who hide it from us.
Oh, what, the government?
Yes. I'm not going to call them that because I don't believe they govern.
You've got a funny theory about who is running the country.
I certainly have.
Who's that?
Rats.
Garth has many strange theories. Broccoli coming from space is just one.
The look on Dean's face was just like, no, don't bring this up again. I've heard a lot about the rats.
I don't like broccoli. I don't eat it as a rule. It's very fashionable now to eat. It could easily come from space. I'm sure that's nonsense, though.
Not many people know this, but there's a theory going around that wasps were the originators of life on this earth. We actually come from wasps.
I haven't heard that.
There's a part of wasp in all of us. However, there are some pure people who are of this earth. I think I'm from this kind who view the wasp as, you know, our clan enemy. So I see myself as a crusader, a vigilante against them. They're disgusting creatures. They're very evil too. And they think. It's a hive mind. We're all part of a hive mind. Did you know that? We are.
I know that you have a chill call.
I almost said Garth's on coke right now, but I think that just might be all natural Garth right there. Oh, wow.
Corner in your house.
Mm-hmm.
What have you done there?
It's very simple. And if you're a serious student of the Fantastique, you'll take heed. You take a corner of your house and you have your chilly books there and you sit in your chair and you can pick up a candelabra probably for about a couple of quid now if you go to one of these garden places. Put that beside you. Black candles. Make sure you've got some extinguisher or something should there be an accident. And I recommend the music of Ioannis Exarnis, Bohor 1. Put that on, and I guarantee you a nightmare.
Do you think that's the thing many people in the world are trying to achieve?
No.
No.
I think Garth, in terms of calibre of artist, will be remembered up with the very best. He'll be remembered in the same breath as Rick Astley. He'll be remembered in the same breath as Maureen Lipman. I would like
I
my...
can't. When this moments happen, I can't tell if it's Dean being realistic with how Garth will be remembered, or if it's Dean truly believing Kirk Astley is the peak of talent. I don't know which it is.
remains scattered among the tables of my club.
And what does Garth want done to his?
Garth wants to have his remains blown out of a medieval horn.
Alright, so we have a club. That sounds horrifying.
I am self-taught.
I don't want your life.
In fact, I've made it a point of honour never to learn anything from anyone else. My mother, God rest her, even though she's alive, but let's make sure that God helps her get some rest.
That's cute.
Brought me up on her own, worked a number of jobs. She was a quick fit fitter, she was a pool cleaner, and she was a taxidermist. And she did taxidermy nights. If there was a rush job on a stuff, she would be called in. And that's just the nasty stuff. That's getting the gristle out, that's getting the bone out, that's getting the innards out. And she would do that through the night, come back, clean a pool, get down quick fit, and then same again.
Yeah, maybe Dean developed a fascination with dead animals. That's usually how it starts, right?
Nice to see you both, gentlemen.
Hello.
Oh, it's good to be seen, Paul.
You've been a team for a long time.
Yeah.
Let's
Too
talk
long.
about how that first happens.
Well,
Why Dean, Garth?
Well, he.
why not?
I knew who he was because he was making the papers from a very early age, and I was only 15, 16.
The magazine that I was working on was called Dude, and it changed its name to Fella, more English. And it was a mixture of erotica and fantastic stories. I got a story by Garth Marenghi, writing under a pseudonym at that time, so I didn't know who he was, called Face Bottom. I read it, and I thought, hey, there's something here.
That is 100%. All I can think of when I hear face bottom is that scene in Society where the dude's face comes out of his butt. That's all I can see. I'm sorry.
Not only is this a very haunting story about a guy whose face is literally half the bottom, but it's also a allegory of the Biafra conflict.
There is a movie from a short film that has that. I haven't seen it. It looks awful. Called like Skins or something. Not the UK show, obviously. But it's like a woman has an asshole for a face. Or a mouth. Not like ass mouth or arse mouth in the Preacher comics. That's different. That's cooler. I love that character. But no, yeah, it's look it up or don't, but I've seen like bits of it. It looked gross.
This is very exciting, isn't it? Let's give him a call. Come into the office, please. Came into the office, met, got on, and he just signed my chest. We never had anything written. He signed my chest right there and then.
Okay.
In retrospect, I should have got something in writing. It was hubris on my part. But we've never looked back. We
No, it was in blood. It was being your Faustian deal.
parted briefly, Garth and I, in the 80s. Garth for a while thought that he could do better with another manager. And that manager died.
Did he?
And then he came back to me. I wanted to stand for Parliament because I believe that there is a voice yet to be heard in politics. That is the voice of the liberated man. I got 7 votes in total, which is a shame because I know more than 7 people. Society deems driving drunk unacceptable. That's a society we live in. So we have to accept those rules.
What do you think about it?
I am personally capable of controlling a car no matter what level of intoxication I'm up to. That's a gift I have. At the moment, the law denies me from exercising that gift. I've had a lot of trouble with censorship in my life. I don't believe in censorship. I don't believe in self-appointed judges. I don't believe in judges. I don't really believe in appointments. My style is eclectic.
He's one of those guys, if you ever need to take him in for questioning, you just kind of stop talking and he'll eventually incriminate himself. It's fine. Even if he hasn't done anything, he'll incriminate himself just by talking.
Mix. Some of it comes from 20s golf. Some of it comes from Al Capone. Some of it comes from the future. And some of it comes from feeful landlords. I've been smoking cigars since I was 12.
But you've never smoked a cigarette?
No. I don't want to get cancer.
Where did the cap angle come from?
This is how a man wears a cap. I mean, I could put it flat on, but, you know, I'm not a potato farmer.
It looks slightly camp.
Slightly camp? Yeah, well, that's your call, friend. I don't think it looks camp. I think if you speak to people who know me, I'm nothing if not camp.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. It's a shame to end on that tone. That's quite a shame, because I was enjoying that and you've kind of soured it. But never mind. Dean.
That interviewer will not make it home alive.
It's like any art form. There's a lot of sitting around. You know, one gets, dependent on certain things. I started to drink, you see, in 1979. And things got worse up until about, I'd say, 1994. The work kind of dried up, and I became, I think, a bit of a joke due to my own bad behaviour, I would imagine.
They simply don't make parts for people like Todd anymore. The parts got smaller. That's what happened, and he's got bigger.
I did have to file for bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is not such a bad thing, you see. People have this stigma about bankruptcy. I mean, it's there to actually protect one. The thing is, if you're not on something which is on BBC One, BBC Two, ITV, whatever, then people think that you've died. Okay, I've done a lot of theatre, things, for no money, which I thought were good. What can you throw at me now? I've been in prison.
See, I kind of love this. I love this I'm really glad that I watched these, as a compare, like, after the series, because I feel like in the series, of course they talked like everything's like they're larger than life characters, and I feel like in this we're just kind of seeing the dark, sad reality behind these failures. And I'm a bad person, so it makes it funnier.
I've been bankrupt. I haven't worked for many a long year. I've been dropped from every single record company that I was with. Do you know what I mean?
That's a crime.
What else have you got? I suppose you could say that I'm a sex pest. That's about the only thing left.
Yeah, you're a sex pest.
You won't get any proof on anything like that.
No, you are.
The question is, would I want to know the real me? Who knows that? I don't want to appear bitter about any of this because, that's a very sort of easy way out. I'm not bitter at all. But, certain things do really get me down. I tend to sort of change my opinion on acting the older I get, but there are a few rules that I've stuck to from, basically from day one. It is like Beats. Acting is like...
I can't tell if we're going for earlier in the interview, so the cup's fuller, or if it's just he's had that many drinks. It's probably the second one.
Beats. Standing on stage, the best kind of training an actor can ever get. Try telling that, that to an actor now. They'll think, you're a fool. All right then, Mr. So-and-so from EastEnders or whatever, get yourself on... stage in front of 500 people, if that's how many you can get in the theatre these days. I doubt even that. And, reach the man right at the back of the hall, and at the same time keep the intimacy for, the first row. That's not easy. Can't learn that kind of thing on TV, I'm afraid. The thing that I normally do is, I think of myself as being a human drum kit. Now, I can actually play the drums, which makes this much easier to describe to you. So it's as if I'm either sat at a drum kit, and I'm going... and you're keeping up a beat, usually 4/4. 4/4 is much easier, because other people know what 4/4 is. Once you start to, change and waltz and things, people don't know where the fuck they are. So if you keep it, say, 4/4, and you say the lines, something like, Scotch mist? What Scotch mist?
Just not remotely.
Somebody like Michael Caine,
Oh, God.
his beat would be obviously very simple, and would be a where it's just, you know, like a march, if you like. Whereas somebody like, who do I like? Christopher Walken, for instance. Now, he would have something completely different, more of a...
What's happening? What is happening?
Do you see what I mean?
What about Garth and Dean?
Garth and Dean, they wouldn't be aware of any beats or any kind of style at all. Garth would just be... Dean's would be... Just imagine somebody mentally retarded sat with a drum kit. Imagine the noise that they would make. That's what you got with Dean, I think. A good actor, I think, is always somebody who is very easy on the eye. And I don't just mean, you know, looking good. I mean, in terms of easy to watch, but at the same time has a kind of edge. So you're not quite sure what they'll do next. And that's all down to timing. Now, I could read the same lines to you in 3 or 4 different ways, and I pretty much guarantee you would only remember one of the actual performances. I could read 2 flat and 2... you know, how I would normally do them. That's all it is. The words, I think, are pretty much, I wouldn't say immaterial, but it is all about speech patterns, gaps that you leave, air, you know, that you take, that kind of thing. Very, very short line, but it meant so much, you see. And your sort of current young 23-year-old TV actor would probably read that in the cab on the way to the job. That would be the first time he'd
He's so bitter. It's beautiful.
have actually seen that, I think. Got on.
I'm not commenting as much. I don't even know if this one's fun to watch. I'm just kind of staring and watching this, like, kind of horror show. These interviews are becoming like, if anyone's familiar with the fantastic show Moral Oral, these 2 videos are like season 3, where you're like, oh, what's been happening? Especially this one.
Set, stood against his opposite, waited for, I don't know, probably a second to make sure, you know, that the camera was back on him or whatever, and then would give you a reading of, you and he were buddies, weren't you? Looking at him. Which is always a very, very selfish way to act, but it's what I see every day now. You and he were buddies, weren't you? Sort of thing, as opposed to possibly looking at the door, which I believe the scene was, looking back at him, back at the door. You and he were buddies, weren't you? Need I say more? Need I say more?
Nope, you're perfect.
I mean, I turned on, what was it the other day, that bloody awful Cockney soap, what's that called?
EastEnders.
Yeah, and the most ugliest, disgusting looking people, men and women. This fat bloke, I haven't got a clue what his name was, red in the face. I had to turn the bloody thing, I couldn't hear a word he was saying. And it was all that type of thing. And then this Cockney Sparrow, like young Barbara Windsor type, dyed black hair, looked like a fucking raven, near enough. And, you know, this is supposed to be, you know, serious stuff. I never seen anything like it. It was like a pantomime, my friend. Really awful. And I understand 12 million people actually turn on to that every single day. Is it on every day? I imagine it is now. Most of these things are. It was like a, I don't know, like a modern day freak show.
I've never seen EastEnders, so I just know it's a big show. I have no idea, but I've never seen it, so I can't really comment on the nuance of that point.
You know, that's what you've, you know, got to, you know, basically contend with. I'd rather bow out gracefully.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The secret to our deodorant.
Okay, well, that's the note we're gonna go out on. Wow. Well, let me think. So before I watched these videos, I thought of Todd, Dean, and Garth as a kind of self-centered, maybe just kind of dumb actor, a criminal, and a narcissist. And now my feelings are a very sad alcoholic who, if I try to think of what their futures will be like, how dark do I want to go? I don't know if I could see a future where Todd doesn't live much longer by his own doings. Dean, still a criminal, and will eventually be taken out by the cops. And Garth, a much shyer, maybe this is because of the mental breakdown, kind of more sheepish than I originally considered, far more manic than I originally considered, and really I think will be just sort of living a quiet life, signing autographs for like 3 people at a book signing in his future. That's so dark, but that's the show, man. That was awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for joining me for all these, guys. This was crazy. Like I said, I don't even know if this was a fun reaction to watch because I was just kind of staring for most of it. There wasn't a lot I could really like analyze and things like that. I was just kind of laughing. So apologies, this was a bit of a lame note to go out on, but I sure had fun. So, and hey, you know what? It distracted me from my back, so I'm happy. We're going to be getting to Dean pretty soon. I know I've been going out with other videos lately. I've kind of, it's funny, for the, like, 3 groups, I guess. People who follow me for music, people follow me for, like, UK comedy, and then people who follow me for musicals. So I can try to struggle to make everybody happy. But yeah, so thanks so much for all your support, and I hope you guys will follow me to the next one. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.